Thank you, Lord Clarke, for allowing us to trespass on your time by having you come here. I can't think that anyone who's listened to your evidence will forget it in a hurry. Given as it was in a style you yourself...
That's a very ambiguous remark. Yes.
Well, given as it was in a style which you yourself have described as combative and challenging, developing an understanding of what happened, which is a very large part of the inquiry's remit, is like piecing together a huge jigsaw. It depends upon documents, available recollections, context, and personality, in which each witness's evidence and how they give it represents one piece. So if questions trying to understand the shape and size of your particular piece of the jigsaw and how it fits in have been frustrating to you at times, I just want you to know that the answers have been helpful to us.
Thank you very much. And I've no doubt you were warned in advance that I think probably maybe reassured compared with any of my colleagues. I've been a public figure, so you probably had a view of me before I arrived. I realise I am naturally rather combative. I'm not always patient. I mean, going back to decision making, I'm sometimes rather impetuous, and so anybody working with me has to get me, to sit down and really read the papers and think about it and take it. And I think we'd better get the permanent secretary in to listen to and so on. I give long answers, and the older I get, bear in mind I am now in my 80s, I think I get even more garrulous. But any journalist who's ever interviewed me on radio or television would tell you, they often say before we start, now short answers if we can, and if it's an old friend, somebody I know, I tend to say, look, John, you've had me in here before, so I'll do my best, but after about 2 minutes, I'm incapable of giving short answers. So I apologise to counsel, to the tribunal as well, if I at times was showing signs of impatience or giving her long answers the whole time. I don't think I interrupted as much as I usually do. I think I've been spared.
Well, how much do you usually interrupt?
And if I'm not careful, then I have to cure myself of that. I mean, with journalists, they interrupt you the whole damn time anyway. But so I could name journalists where everybody listening to us had to, if we weren't careful. Of course, it sounds terrible, so that's why I haven't stopped doing it. But but sometimes there were some journalists, they wouldn't let me finish a sentence, and I wouldn't let them. But I think that I haven't cured myself of, but I hope I've modified that. But I still, as I am now, tend to give long answers.
Well, I hope you'll just bear with me for a moment while I mention a number of things to others. This is for everyone here and for those who are watching online or on YouTube. As you all know, this is our last hearing day before we break for the summer. Break, that is, from hearings. Work, of course, goes on. But I'd like to say 4 things at this stage. First, many of you have made a contribution to the work of the inquiry, and it's a reminder to all of us of the importance to many of the issues before us that so many have been following it in person or online. And very nearly 500 have followed us on YouTube and Zoom each day this week, together with a full house here at Fleetbank, as you know. And I've no doubt that there are many more still for whom watching may perhaps have been too difficult, who've kept in touch with the inquiry in their own way. But I'd like to thank you, each of you, whatever your perspective is, for being part of a collective endeavour to understand how and why such a tragedy occurred. You too have made a contribution. And I'd like to thank those of you who've been here in person. Whatever your perspective, however welcome the evidence has been, however enlightening, however difficult it may have been from time to time to listen to it, or however much you may have fundamentally disagreed with it, I'd like to thank each of you for showing the courtesy to the witness, which has allowed each witness to say what they wanted to say, as they would wish to say it, whatever their role may have been. Secondly, the inquiry will return from Tuesday, the 21st of September, when we will be at our new premises in Aldwych. We're starting with evidence from the former Secretary of State for Health and Social Security, Lord Norman Fowler, followed by evidence of the roles played by pharmaceutical companies and blood services. As we do so, I expect an increasing proportion of the evidence to relate more directly to those who've suffered from hepatitis or HIV who are not also people with haemophilia. The whole of our terms of reference are being and will be considered. We will sit for quite a number of weeks in the autumn. The full timetable's yet to be finalised. And though these remain uncertain times, we'll endeavour to make progress no matter what challenges we might then be facing. Third, before Easter, I issued a statement of approach on final submissions. Now, during the summer break, I encourage all who are participants to continue thinking about the points they would wish to make in their final submissions. These will, of course, cover both the conclusions you think I should reach and the recommendations you hope I will feel able to make. Making recommendations is of central importance. They aim to help future generations learn the lessons of what happened, and perhaps to lessen the danger of history repeating itself. Submissions come at the end of the inquiry hearings. Potential recommendations require careful consideration, which may benefit from timetabling witnesses before the end with relevant expertise to help to inform those recommendations. So please treat this as advance notice that I'd like to have at least 3 months before submissions, and at least in outline, what, if any, recommendations you would wish me to consider making. Fourth, I said there were 4 points, and finally, I wish you all a restorative break. Thank you.
Factor 8. Exposing the contaminated blood scandal. Support the Contaminated Blood Scandal campaign. Click subscribe now.